Good morning, Facebook friends. Domonique Benn here, KSLA News 12, along with Adria Goins. This is something new that we're starting here at KSLA. This is KSLA Cafe.
Yes,
the cafe.
Fancy cafe.
Yes, we're going to be talking about all of the latest headlines from safety and security.
Yes.
To
spending smarter, making sure that you are using your money well and managing your money well, and giving you some ways to go about doing that.
Yes, with back to school, with all of these school supply lists here, it can get expensive. So
yes,
I can't wait to talk to you about.
Yeah, and both of us have kids. We're parents. We both have kids going to school. I know that you have a young one going to school for the first time. Mine starts back this week, so. Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking for parents.
Are you gonna cry?
Oh, I'm sure, probably. I cried when he started kindergarten. I cried just even thinking about it but he's, he does a good job, so I'm proud of him.
All right. We are thankful that all of you are tuned in to us. This is a place that you can come and ask us questions live. We'll be able to answer those questions going back and forth. We're going to be talking about immunizations today with Dr. Gretchen Petterway from Christus Pediatric Associates. I know a lot of people have questions about immunizations, whether your child is starting school, whether you're having a newborn and it's time for the vaccinations, your 18-month, or not the 18-month, but your year vaccinations. I had a lot of questions and a lot of tears, believe it or not.
It's understandable with parents. Well, what we're really doing here, so that way you can kind of understand, is that we're starting these 2 new series, and there's going to be a lot of changes you're going to see on KSLA News 12 throughout the day, through the morning all the way to our evening newscasts. So Domonique is now really going to play a pivotal role in our noon newscast, and I'm going to step in and kind of hang out with her on the noon. So, and a lot of new responsibilities and roles, so we're very excited about that. But really the real reason behind this is to make sure that we're keeping all of you guys safe in our communities and keeping your kids safe, and also making sure that we are doing everything you can to stretch that budget. We know what it's like.
That's right. And really it starts in the morning with you on KSLA News 12 this morning and ends for KSLA News 12 at 10. We are with you from the very, very beginning all the way throughout the day. We're going to have the headlines, what we're talking about. We're going to have interviews. We're going to answer your questions. We have the stories that you have questions about. This week, we're talking about immunizations. And then along with going back to school, we have school supply list. Sports safety, that's a big one as children go back and they get ready to take their physicals, and they're playing high school sports, middle school sports, physicals. What do they need to know? What do parents need to know? If they have asthma, can they play? Those are some of the questions that we have.
A lot of questions that parents ask themselves every single time this time of year. Don't really know where to find the answers. We're going to try to break down some of that for you so you can understand a little bit more. Also, when you go back to school shopping, a lot of people want to make sure that they are getting the most out of their budget. There are a lot of things that you can do that you don't even really think about, as far as like buying in bulk, and also just check your inventory, what you've already got. I'm not buying a lot of things for my kiddo because he's able to wear them another season, which is really good, and then you can hit those sales again when it comes around for Christmas. So a lot of things you really don't think about, but some ways to save you some money there.
So you actually had an opportunity to go to some of these stores and compare, and there wasn't much of a difference.
Yeah, there was a couple of things that I'll discuss on KSLA News 12 at 4 o'clock, but there was a lot of prices on for places that I went to that were very similar. A lot of the Crayola crayons were the same price at all 3. So they vary on different things like, your binders and your pencils and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of them are very comparable.
So I have a question. When they say they want Crayola crayons, do you have to get Crayola, or can you get an off-brand to save money?
Well, not necessarily. You don't have to get it every single time. Some schools prefer it because they last longer. So you're really, getting the most of your money there. And that's why I think a lot of the places that we went to compare prices, they were the same. They were 50 cents for a package, a 24-pack of Crayola crayons, because they know that a lot of parents or a lot of teachers put that on their list because they know that they will last a lot longer.
Well, because I'm frugal, so I go to all the little dollar stores around here. But that's good to know that if I need to get Crayola because it's going to last a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. It's something in your back pocket to make sure that that's why I think a lot of those stores make sure that those are the lowest price.
So if you take a school supply list, for example, what was give us an idea of what the estimate
Okay,
was.
so I took a first grade school supply list, and we went to 3 different stores and we tested it out to see. We got try to get everything on our list. We could not get everything on our list at one specific store because sometimes, you know, each school asks for crazy stuff like, you know, manila construction paper or what have you. But I would say roughly around $70.
Okay.
Between $70 to $75 is what you're going to see typically for the entire school supply list.
Right. So I'm looking at this list. I won't call the name of the school because I don't want to point specifically anything out. But I mean, when you look at this list, what if you have 3 kids though?
And that's one thing I do talk about is buying in bulk.
Okay.
You know, you don't really think about it.
Yep.
But the Dollar Tree has
Right.
everything that you want to buy online is in bulk.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And I go to the Dollar Tree.
Right?
All the time.
So you can
every
go
other
in
day.
store and buy it, you know, for $1.
Okay.
But if you go online to the Dollar Tree's website, you can
get a
buy
case for $24. I already know.
Yep, right.
You're
See,
already
saving you
know.
money already.
Right.
We're 5 minutes in.
I can't wait to hear more about it, Adria, because I do have a kindergartner, a rising kindergarten student. So, but I don't think she's going to need all of what a 3rd grader needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do need
And
to
it
save
seems to grow and increase in price the older you get.
I know.
So because they need more things, and then they start to need calculators, and a lot of times they'll say if it's not like one of those, you know, specialized calculators, you can go to the dollar store and get a regular calculator there.
Right.
So, and that works just the same as another calculator you'd find somewhere else.
All
So.
right. Another big topic is keeping you safe, whether it is the safety and security of your home, in the schools, or with your health. And we have Dr. Gretchen Petterway. She's going to come on and join us. Dr. Petterway from Christus Pediatric Associates. Thank you so much for being here with us. All right. Immunizations.
Ooh, yes.
You know, because I called you crying, right?
She did. You did. You did.
Do I have to get my child vaccinated? Right. I
Right.
just, and you reassured me, but I still had some tough questions for you because you hear in the news or just different articles, rumors have been started about immunizations, certain ones cause autism, and it scares us to death. So that's the number one question, and that's basically for the infants and the younger ones. So they've already had that so-called MMR that people are talking about by the time they go to kindergarten. But we have parents on here that
Right.
have children that are getting ready to get that MMR. So is it safe?
It is safe. And there has been not one study that has linked autism to measles, mumps, and rubella, not one. And so it's fairly safe. I administer it in my clinic every day. And so the one thing you both said at the beginning of this was, you know, we're moms, you know, and we've cried, and I'm taking my doctor hat off. And as a mom, I've cried too, you know, at various stages. That's what moms do. We want to make sure our babies are okay and that they're well taken care of. And MMR is a part of that. Vaccines are a part of that as well. And you're right, there has been not one study to link
did it come
autism
from?
from MMR. You know, let me tell you what my personal thought is as a mom, but also as a pediatrician. So around that 1-year-old birthday, that's typically when kids come in. We see them at 9 months, 2, 4, 6, 9 months. And then you have that 3-month gap. And then they come in for their 1-year-old well check. And then that's also around the time where a lot of parents start realizing like, something's not
We're
right.
not as far along
Right,
as they
we're
should
not where we're supposed to be. And so at the same time is when we give that MMR. So I feel historically practicing for over 10 years that that's part of the problem. You know, it got that bad rap because it's around the time where parents are starting noticing that, you know, Sally is not doing what John's doing. What's going on? And then we show up at our 1-year-old well check and bam, we get our vaccines. Now they tried to link MMR to a preservative called thimerosal back in the day. Right, and preservatives are just there to protect the vaccine, stop bacteria overgrowth. Well, guess what? We don't use thimerosal in vaccines to preserve it anymore, and we're still seeing an alarming cases of autism nationally, not even nationally, but throughout the world. And so when you look at the numbers don't even support MMR causing autism.
Yeah.
And so I want to back up, and I think I need to just make sure we have an overview of this. So I'm a visual learner. I did not realize that until I was 25 years old, and I almost got the big F-bomb on my first medical school test. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, so I am visual. I draw pictures. That's how I learn, and so that's how I teach. So I figured that's how I would teach you guys. So if you would just hold my hand through here.
Need a pen?
I have some pictures for you. I have pictures.
Good. We love it whenever our guests bring.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, stick to what I know, so I'm going to stick to what I know. And so, of course, national security is a hot topic for us now. So I want us to think of our bodies as the United States or a state or an army fort, if you will. So you have this fort at the bottom,
Okay.
right? And the fort is there to protect things from getting in, right?
Right.
And so with this fort, you have the army or you have people supporting that fort, right? So I want you to think of your body as an army fort. The United States of America, we're kind of like a fort. We're trying to protect our borders, right? That's what our body is. We're here to protect our borders. The issue with newborns is this. They're new.
Right.
Everything about them is new. And guess what? That fort hadn't really been developed yet. Okay? It hadn't been developed. So we need to step in to help protect that fort. The fort hasn't really built up its army, right? They really don't have an immune system when they're born. So we have to step in and protect them. And so instead of this country providing its own army, then we step in as doctors and we provide it for you. Okay, so around 6 months of life is when a baby actually starts to develop that immune system. But guess what? There are diseases out there that will, you know, harm infants if they're not vaccinated against them because they don't have the fort set up yet. Remember the fort?
What are some of those? What are some of those at 6 months, I guess?
So 2, 4, 6 months. We start our primary series of vaccines actually at birth when we recommend the first hepatitis B, okay? And then at 2 months is when we start what we call our primary series of vaccinations, okay? So there's diseases that our body just cannot fight off. And some of those diseases at that age is number 1, pneumococcal. Pneumococcal is a major cause of pneumonia, but it can also cause meningitis. Meningitis is like inflammation or infection around the lining of the brain. Well, guess what? An older child may be able to fight that off just a little bit, but this baby cannot at all, right? Because they have not built up that army. Does that make sense? So vaccines come in, the vaccines are the army. The vaccine is the fort. It's helping to support the fort, if you will, which is the body. So we step in, we provide the army, we provide the defense mechanism to the body, and then what happens is our body builds these antibodies. And then they start kind of making their own immunity. But we step in to help because the baby is new, remember new. And this may be simplistic for most healthcare providers, but for parents, it's important for me as a provider for you to understand what's going on. Right. Your baby doesn't have what it needs at this point to support itself, to defend its borders, its fort. So that's why we do that. And then we give them the primary series of vaccines, 2, 4, 6 months, right? And then at a year, and that's what Domonique mentioned, and that's when we had our conversation. And one of the main issues was MMR. Do I administer, do I not? Well, let's talk about MMR. In the news right now, it is hot and heavy in the news because we have a national outbreak of MMR. There is more than 1,000 cases. You know, I checked my numbers on CDC website before I came. You know, we're at 1,100 cases. Now, there has not been a reported case in the state of Louisiana. That doesn't mean it hadn't happened. It just hadn't been reported to the CDC. So we don't have those numbers. So again, why did that happen? Because we had travelers crossing our borders who had measles, and then it was spread mainly to those patients that were not vaccinated. Why? Because our body hadn't had that defense mechanism, right? We did not provide the army to protect the fort like it needed to be protected. And that's what happened. And that's why we're seeing over 1,100 cases as of July 25th. But
So
yeah.
are the 1,100 cases babies that have not had the MMR, or are they grown-ups?
No, I think that some of them are grown-ups.
So how did that happen? Because they're
because
not.
they were not vaccinated.
Oh, wow.
They were not vaccinated.
So it just follows you if you
Right.
don't. Okay.
And the majority of those people really are in like the New York area.
Right,
There's
New
a
York, New
community
Jersey.
in New York, New
Right.
Jersey, who they are faithful believers that you do not need immunizations.
Right.
And so a lot of it has spread within that specific community.
Correct.
But a lot of people are also seeing it all across the country. I think
Correct.
they've even had some in Texas and Oklahoma.
Right, because what do? Especially it's summertime. You know, it's almost back to school, but we travel. You know, we get on airplanes, boats, we're traveling. And so, unfortunately, even though we do have those cluster of outbreaks in New York and New Jersey, with certain subset of populations, it's easily spread.
Oh, yeah.
So where's your school age one again?
Yeah, right here.
So the school age one right there, for kids that are going back to school this week, next week,
Right.
what kind of vaccinations do you need
Right.
before you enter, is it kindergarten or
Right.
if you're 5?
What vaccines do you
Yeah.
need?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Again, my goal was to set up a visual picture. And that visual picture is that our body is a fort and that fort needs protection. And so we step in with vaccines and we provide that protection or that army.
Okay.
Sometimes we need a little tune-up, just like our cars. As they get older, they may have a little wear and tear. Same thing with our body. Our immune system wanes and we need a little tune-up. So we give booster shots at our 4-year-old well child visit, which is typically your back to school visit. And those boosters or tune-ups is MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella, and then of course varicella, which is your chickenpox vaccination, okay? Now, most of us use a combination vaccine called ProQuad for that. So you get 2 in 1 injection, and we do that because it minimizes the discomfort. So instead of 2 shots, you get 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you're just boosting up that army. You're giving that immune system a tune-up. So the second vaccine that we typically give at the 4-year-old well check is, in my office, we give Kenrix. And Kenrix is, again, a combination vaccine that gives a booster for polio, and it also gives a booster for DTaP. Now, DTaP stands for diphtheria, tetanus, and acellular pertussis, which is whooping cough.
Right. How often do you see people come into your office and are against immunizations? Do you see that often?
I do. I see it more and more now. And to be honest with you, I think part of it is everyone has a voice, and that voice is readily available, hence social media, all of the different platforms. And I feel like because of that, and everyone's voice is available, that voice may not be backed up with true scientific information. There's just so much available at your fingertips. And for parents, sometimes it's hard to sift through what's right and what's wrong.
What's fake and what's real.
Right. And as a mom, again, I'm taking my doctor hat off. It's overwhelming when you go to Dr. Google. And I have parents come in all the time, it's Dr. Google, and we jokingly say Dr. Google, but I mean, Google will have you thinking you're dying in 5 days.
Depending on the doctor.
Depending on what you're looking up. And so because we have so much information at our fingertips, and again, I'm taking my doctor hat off, I'm talking to you guys as moms.
Yeah.
It's hard to sift through it. I will honestly say to you guys, as a mother, I've Googled things if it's for myself or even if it's on my kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and so that's part of the problem. There's so much information, and sometimes parents just don't have the guidance to sift through what's right and what's wrong.
In fact, you told me to stay off of Google.
Right, I did.
I was like, Dr. Petterway, but Google says this, but Google says that. How many times our guests, when parents come in, you've changed their minds, like me? I mean, I think I would have gotten it done anyways, but I was really trying to talk myself out of it because of Google and all of the other stuff that I've read.
I think the majority of the time, you have some people, they've made up their minds about what they want to do for their children. And I can understand that from a mom's standpoint, because I have strong convictions about my children for certain things. Vaccines is one of them for me as well, because I strongly, as a mother, believe in vaccinations. Part of that is because I am a physician. And unlike the general population, I've seen a child with whooping cough. I've seen a child with H. flu meningitis, which is preventable. You know, and this child was left blind. This child was left deaf. All because he did not receive a vaccination. So because of my own personal experiences, I have those strong convictions. So more so than not, I would say that I have been successful. You know, I have some parents that may come in and they want an alternative vaccine schedule. Now, of course, right. We talked about the alternative vaccine schedules. And it goes back to this analogy again. Because sometimes we're medical and we get too medical. And because of that, we miscommunicate what we're trying to effectively say to parents. So if we go back to that analogy that I used at the beginning, if you think of your body as a fort and you want to protect it, you want to make sure that fort is as strong as it can be because you don't want any compromise to it, right? Because if part of that fort or that wall is compromised, that means that the enemy can get in. So the goal is to make sure that that fort is the strongest that it can be. And the way you do that is by following the recommended vaccine schedule that CDC, World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. You know, so for me, it's all about dispelling the myth that vaccines hurt. No, we're trying to protect that fort. And when I use that analogy, most parents then understand what I'm coming from. Because, you know, sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. So again, the big picture is protecting the fort. And as I said, at different age groups, certain ages may be more compromised to certain things because they don't have the army to fight it off.
So are you a fan of the alternative schedule? I mean, I decided to go against it and do it on schedule, but I really thought, okay, let me just wait maybe another 2 months. Are you a fan of that, or you're just saying?
You know, personally, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it because it goes back to what I've said from the beginning. The goal is to make sure that the fort is protected, right? Sometimes we need a little tune-up, hence the 2, 4, 6 months. You know, we start off with one dose, we're building that army, and now we need to bump it up a little bit more, right? And so because of that, I support your conventional standard vaccination schedule. However, I have parents, full disclosure, I want to make sure I'm honest, full disclosure. I have some parents that they don't agree with it. They don't. And what I've had to do is, if you will, meet them in the middle. Because I have some parents that will say, you know, we're going to either do it this way or we're not going to do it at all. And my ultimate goal is to make sure that that fort is protected as quickly as possible. But sometimes it means I need to meet that parent in the middle and say, okay, well, this is what I recommend. If it means that I'm going to meet you in the middle so that your child is protected, I would take that over not vaccinating your child at all.
All right, one last question before we wrap it up. Autism, we don't know what causes autism.
We do not.
We don't.
As a matter of fact, there's been ongoing studies, there's been multiple studies out there to figure out what the cause of autism is. And actually, TED Talk has an awesome autism, if you hadn't viewed that. And there's been several genes even linked to autism. And obviously, there is ongoing research, and we still have a lot to learn. And so I'm sure with the research that is taking place now, pieces of the puzzle will start being revealed over time.
And I didn't want to leave our parents out that may have children with autism because sometimes I think they feel like they're left out. There are places that you can go because I've heard that if you try to catch it as soon, it's better as far as, I guess, I don't know if you can turn it around or if you can reverse it. I don't know the term for it, but catching it and getting on it as early as, I don't know, when do you first see it?
That's why it's really important to keep those preventative health visits. It's really important because that's our job as providers, is to make sure that we're there, we screen the child developmentally. So we talked about vaccines at 2, 4, 6 month, all of these preventative health visits. But we also developmentally assess the child at each one of those points. And so it's our responsibility to say, hey, you come and we're going to make sure we do our developmental assessments to figure out if there's something going on with the child. And if so, then we refer out to specialists. And you're right, the earlier you get the diagnosis, the better.
And we know that Odyssey Foundation is really good
Right,
here.
right.
I don't know of any
Tabitha
others.
Taylor,
Yeah, Tabitha
right,
Taylor.
right.
But definitely, when I get calls or people are in my inbox about it, I got the scare, and that's why I called you. Like, don't vaccinate your child.
Right.
I got so many inbox messages when I first had my first baby to not vaccinate, and so and I was scared again when I had Chandler, just because of what you see on Dr. Google.
Right.
But yeah, but Dr. Google has not gone to medical school, so.
Right. You know, Dominique, you know, as a provider and then as a mom, I totally understand those parents who may have a child that has developmental delay, whether it's autism or something else, and my heart is sensitive to that. I understand that, you know, but the science just does not support, you know, MMR as the cause of autism. And that's where I stand with it from a professional standpoint. But there are, like you said, tons of resources available.
Yeah.
And the key is early diagnosis.
Right.
Early diagnosis, and then for that parent, that family, to be funneled through to our local resources so that they can get the assistance that they need medically, but not only medically, from a support standpoint. How can we support you with this diagnosis and help your family navigate through this process?
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Pettaway. Anything
problem.
else that you want to add now that you've calmed our minds?
I know, right?
If you're going to school, are there any more immunizations from kindergarten, sports, or anything?
I did want to ask you, and I don't mean to interrupt. We ran something on KSLA News 12 this morning about the increase in hepatitis A in our in the state of Louisiana. And a lot of kids take this who are 12 years and older, they aren't vaccinated for it at that point, but from like 0 to 11, they've started to incorporate it. Have you seen more cases of that? And do you recommend that
We
vaccine?
do. It is part of the CDC 2019 immunization schedule, and I do have a copy of that for you as well. And so we recommend the first dose of hepatitis A at that 12-month wellness check.
Okay.
And then we will give a second dose. It's recommended 6 months from the first, so at 18 months. And so you're right, there are a subset of the population that miss that. And so again, that's why it's important.
Right.
I got to put my plug in for our preventative health visits, because then we research that. We have the Louisiana Link system, which is our online vaccination system that all of our pediatric practices in Louisiana utilize.
Yeah.
Each state has its own individual one. So we go to that Link system, we pull the vaccination record, and if that child hasn't had that vaccination, in this case Hep A, then we go and we make sure that child receives the vaccination.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Prevention is the key.
Yes. Dr. Gretchen Pettaway, Christus Pediatric Associates, also the author of I Am Cool.
Yes.
Make sure you go get that book. It's available on Amazon. I'm just giving you a plug here. Thank you. But thank you so much for always
No
being
problem.
willing to come in and always being a phone call away, really.
She's great.
I thank you for that.
Again, and this is what I want to say before I leave, and I'm a motor mouth and I know it, but, you know, even as a healthcare provider, I'm a mom.
Yep.
You know, just remember that. I want most of our parents to understand that we're moms too. Some of the same worries, some of the same concerns that you have, we have too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Gretchen.
All right. Thank
All
you for having me.
Okay, KSLA Cafe.
Yeah, this has been
It
fun.
has been fun. Gosh, I am enjoying these conversations, and we're going to have much more.
Yeah.
Much more each day, hopefully, or every
And
other day.
whenever
or-
we can,
Yes,
whenever
yes.
we can get the opportunity to sit down and have some coffee in our new coffee
Jennifer-
cafe, right?
Jennifer brought us these
our
cups
producer
without any
failed.
coffee.
She didn't really- We'll have coffee next time.
Okay.
Make sure you tune in to KSLA News 12 at 4 and 5 and 6. And are you doing something at 10 o'clock?
I may have definitely immunizations. We will have something all day
Throughout
long,
the day.
Throughout the day, starting at noon, 4, 5, 6, and 10. Definitely. All right.
Have a good day, guys.